Ladies and gentlemen, the world as we know it has gone crazy. This COVID-19 situation is out of hand. Everyone wearing masks, everyone standing 6 feet apart, grocery stores with empty shelves, everyone afraid for their lives, no toilet paper to be found anywhere. And what's with this crazy toilet paper situation anyway? People are buying so much toilet paper like it's going to protect them or something. It makes no sense. It's all crazy. So in this video, I would like to give you my opinion on what I think is going on and to put things in perspective. First, let's start with some numbers and statistics. At the time of me making this video, the last week of April 2020, more than 160,000 people have died of the COVID-19 disease globally. In fact, I think it's around 161,000 people. Now, to put that in perspective, did you know that every day worldwide that approximately 153,000 people die? That's right, 153,000 people die per day worldwide. So when did this COVID-19 begin? Here is a quick timeline. December 31st, 2019, World Health Organization says mysterious pneumonia sickening dozens in China. January 11th, 2020, China reports its first coronavirus death. January 21st, 2020, first confirmed case in the United States. So, let's use January 21st as the official start date. That means we have had 3 months of this virus. That's 90 days. Do you know how many people have died worldwide in the last 90 days? Well, let's take a look. 90 days times 153,000 deaths per day equals 13,770,000 deaths in the last 3 months. Staggering numbers. So, 13.7 million deaths in the last 3 months and no shutdowns. Why don't the governments of the world shut down the system and force people to stay home and many to lose their jobs over this many deaths? Why not? Yet 160,000 people have supposedly died from this virus and everything collapses? Something's not right here. Let's continue with some more numbers. Did you know that every year from the seasonal flu that up to 650,000 people die worldwide? 4 times more people, that's right, 4 times more people die annually from the seasonal flu than this COVID-19, and there are no shutdowns. You would think that with 650,000 people dying annually from the seasonal flu, that every year we should be forced to wear masks and would be forced to stay home. Do the governments of the world not care about these 650,000 annual flu deaths? Yet, 160,000 people have supposedly died from COVID-19 and everything collapses? This doesn't add up. And let's keep this going. Did you know that the third leading cause of death in the United States is medical errors by doctors? Approximately 250,000 deaths occur each year from doctor mistakes. And this is just in the United States. Source: CDC, National Center for Health Statistics. Source: Johns Hopkins University. The third leading cause of death in the United States, most doctors don't want you to know about. So in the last 5 years, over 1 million people have lost their lives due to medical errors. Has the US government done anything about this? No. Maybe the government should start shutting down non-ER doctors and lives would be saved. Did you know that the 10th leading cause of death worldwide is car accidents? 1.3 million people lose their lives due to car accidents every year. So should all the governments of the world ban driving cars to save lives? If the governments of the world care so much about us, they might want to ban driving and save 1.3 million people annually. Yet COVID-19 supposedly has killed about 160,000 people, and everything shuts down, and the economy is going to be screwed for the unforeseeable future? Did you know that the 23rd leading cause of death is falling down? 644,000 people die annually from falling. Are the governments of the world going to ban walking around so you don't fall? Let's do one more. Did you know that 358,000 people die every year from drowning? More people die from drowning than this COVID-19 so far. So should the governments of the world shut down all swimming pools, oceans, and lakes from swimming? Okay, so what's my point with all these statistics? My point is that this COVID-19 is being blown way out of proportion, and it is destroying our economy. Why are they doing this? Well, over the course of this video, you will see why. Let's talk about Bill Gates and his depopulation agenda for a few minutes. Did you know that Bill's father was heavily into eugenics? Bill Gates' father was the head of Planned Parenthood and inspired his population control views. Bill Gates' father, William H. Gates Sr., has long been involved with the eugenics group Planned Parenthood. In a 2003 interview with PBS's Bill Moyers, Bill Gates admitted that his father used to be the head of Planned Parenthood, which was founded on the concept that most human beings are just reckless breeders and human weeds in need of culling. If you don't know what eugenics is, here is a quick definition. The practice or advocacy of controlled selective breeding of human populations, as by sterilization, to improve the population's genetic composition. So basically, eugenics is a fancy word for population control. And Bill and his wife Melinda are heavy supporters of Planned Parenthood, or in other words, abortion to keep the population down. Now, I don't know if you have ever heard this talk by Bill Gates in 2010 at TED Talks. It was titled Innovation to Zero, and in it, he says one of the most outrageous things I have ever heard. Please pay very close attention to what he says.
This equation has four factors, a little bit of multiplication. So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to zero, and that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. That's back from high school algebra, but let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, health care, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. But there we see an increase of about 1.3.
Did you hear that? Let me quote him exactly. If we do a really great job on new vaccines, health care, reproductive health services, which is just a fancy word for Planned Parenthood and abortions, we can lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. Really, Bill? You want to kill 10 to 15% of the population? There are about 7.8 billion people in the world, and Bill wants to get rid of 15% of them. That's 1.1 billion people that Bill wants gone. It's obvious that Bill wants less people on the earth. Well, Bill, are you and your wife going to be the first in line to volunteer to be wiped off the earth? Moving right along. Have you ever heard of Event 201? About the Event 201 exercise. Event 201 was a 3.5-hour pandemic tabletop exercise that simulated a series of dramatic, scenario-based, facilitated discussions confronting difficult, true-to-life dilemmas associated with response to a hypothetical but scientifically plausible pandemic. The exercise consisted of pre-recorded news broadcasts, live staff briefings, and moderated discussions on specific topics. These issues were carefully designed in a compelling narrative that educated the participants and the audience. And Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation jointly proposed these recommendations. Purpose. Experts agree that it is only a matter of time before one of these epidemics becomes global, a pandemic with potentially catastrophic consequences. A severe pandemic, which becomes Event 201, would require reliable cooperation among several industries, national governments, and key international institutions. Recommendations. The Event 201 pandemic exercise, conducted on October 18, 2019, vividly demonstrated a number of these important gaps in pandemic preparedness, as well as some of the elements of the solutions between the public and private sectors that will be needed to fill them. Friday, October 18th, 2019. So let me ask you this. Is this the luckiest coincidence ever that a pandemic exercise occurs 2 months before an actual pandemic happens? And this luckiest coincidence ever just so happens to be sponsored by the guy who is pushing vaccination and wants a 15% population decrease? Of course not. This isn't a coincidence. This was a planned pandemic. Here's something else I bet you didn't know. Just 1 month after this Event 201 meeting, Netflix came out with a documentary featuring Bill Gates. Bill Gates predicted coronavirus-like outbreak in 2019 Netflix documentary. It isn't to say Bill Gates called the coronavirus to a T, but he sure did warn of a pandemic. A Netflix documentary said wet markets in China is a factor for disease X. A wet market in Wuhan is said to be the cause of the coronavirus outbreak. Bill Gates warned it takes years to find a cure to a new pandemic or virus outbreak. So is this just another lucky coincidence that Bill does a documentary about a pandemic 1 month before it actually happened? I don't think so. This was pre-planned. No wonder he said in 2018 that a pandemic was coming, because he knew a pandemic was coming. And how about this? Bill and Melinda Gates are two of the biggest supporters to help find a vaccination with donating $100 million. And here are some other articles I found on Bill and his agenda. I don't know about you, but I'm not very comfortable with a guy who wants a 15% population decrease, hosts an event that mimics a pandemic, does a documentary about pandemics 1 month before it actually happened, and donates a lot of money to help research for a vaccination. The bottom line is that Bill wants to vaccinate the entire world to fulfill some evil agenda. Oh, and here is something that might be the most ironic thing ever. Bill doesn't even vaccinate his own kids. In a time when the media is portraying that this COVID-19 is out of control and that hospitals are panicking to try to handle all the patients, I find it very strange that the hospitals are actually nearly empty with not much going on. We know this because average U.S. citizens had doubts about the hospitals, so they went out on their own and recorded the hospitals and how they really are. My hat's off to these citizens for having the courage to do this. Let's take a look.
Approximately how many coronavirus patients have you seen? How many? You don't know? 2? 100? 3. You've seen 3.
So again, there are no lines of people. There is no mass chaos out here, contrary to what the mainstream media is telling you.
How do you know they had coronavirus? Do you guys test in the ambulance? You don't know. You assume.
Yeah, assume. It's not concrete. It's assume. Based off of
Symptoms.
Once again this morning, the city's hospitals will be on the front lines in this war against the coronavirus. In Elmhurst, Queens, that hospital there, lines of people lining up already this morning for about the last 45 minutes. Confirmed cases, people waiting to get tested. Supplies are in demand there.
Somebody said there would be hordes of people inside. That's why I didn't go in. Let's see. The doctor with his mask on and everything. And look at that. Nobody. Completely empty. This is police, no EMS, nothing. Nothing, absolutely. Ghosts. That's all they got you afraid of, ghosts.
With the growing number of patients as supplies dwindle. You can see barricades behind us set up here outside of the hospital to keep order here because so many have been lining up every day to get tested.
Where's the long lines of people trying to get tested? I don't see that.
I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what it looks like here in New York City. The mayor, the governor says our hospitals have been turned into war zones. Well, I want to give you an idea of what that war zone looks like here in downtown Brooklyn. So this is my neighborhood. This is the Brooklyn Hospital Center. And again, you're hearing one thing on the mainstream media, and this is what it's like in reality. This is where people normally stand up to get testing for the coronavirus. But as you can see, not much happening. And this is a hospital that serves thousands and thousands of people here in downtown Brooklyn, New York. There are no lines of people. There is no mass chaos out here, contrary to what the mainstream media is telling you.
Here's those tents they had set up. This is what you saw on the news.
At Elmhurst Hospital, lines of people outside wait to get tested. A refrigerated truck has now been brought in here, a makeshift morgue.
Here's the refrigerated truck for the dead people, but no action.
Ambulances have seen a surge in calls, responding to nearly 5,800 Thursday.
All parked ambulances, no patients, nobody's rushing anywhere.
In fact, we've got a couple of ambulances here waiting to be called into action. Here's some busy, crazy busy guys. Yep, they're on their cell phone, watching Netflix.
And officials say this, unfortunately, is just the beginning, with the crisis expected to last for months and the peak of it all still on the horizon. We are live in Elmhurst, Queens this morning. Rena Roy, CBS 2 News.
Rena, thank you.
Nothing, absolutely. Ghosts. That's all they got you afraid of, ghosts. Hello. What? Oh, no problem.
Phyllis and William Mack Pavilion here on 7th Avenue. There's one guy in the waiting room. It's not too crazy. And as you see, there's an emergency sign, open 24/7, and new people.
We control the disease by controlling the information.
You can't protect the public by lying to them.
It's done every day.
Walk-in healthcare clinics around the state say they've been overwhelmed by the demand for coronavirus testing, causing frustration.
We were overwhelmed yesterday with the response to people wanting testing.
Urgent Care Hawaii says its drive-up service was deluged by requests for coronavirus tests, some waiting as long as 4 hours.
Here's my question, guys. What's the game here? You're smart people. Why are they whipping us into a panic? Why are they lying about massive lines of people at testing centers? Night after night being told there are these long lines of people being managed at the urgent care, that they're being overwhelmed.
Some waiting as long as 4 hours.
Actually, the president or CEO of urgent care, while I was in front of the place, was telling me, we're doing the best we can, managing these massive lines. I'm like, I'm here, lady. And there's no lines.
As you can see, the ER, the hospital, is not overwhelmed. Where are all these sick people at for this quarantine? Hospital number 2. The first one was Norton East in Louisville, Kentucky. And this one is Baptist East in Louisville, Kentucky. The first one had nobody waiting in the waiting area. 2 nurses just sitting at the desk. The quarantine tent where they take the test was empty.
People, look at the testing centres. This is what they're telling you testing is going on in. Where's the testing? They're empty. They're abandoned people. There is no testing going on. Where's the testing? Where is it? The show that's getting put on for you. Leo and Coveney and Simon will be down out for the photo up soon and have loads of people with masks letting on to be coming in to get tested. Look, there we are. There is no bloody testing. Right down to the end, look. There is no testing going on in these tents.
The quarantine tent where they take the test was empty. We're going to see what this one's like. Let's go. As you can see, waiting area is empty. Alright. I'm just looking for my family. They were supposed to be here already waiting. It might be at the other hospital. Nobody's in there. Nurses are just taking an easy day.
We were overwhelmed yesterday with the response.
I just want to know why urgent care doesn't want me to document. They're lying on the news about being overwhelmed with lines and testing all these people. They're taking state money and they're not testing anyone. They're taking our money. Look at that line, officer. You see that line? So are these the overwhelming lines that you guys have been lying to the people of Hawaii about? I'm a journalist, and this is going to be a column, and it's going to be read nationally.
That's great.
About how you're lying, that there are massive lines.
I never said there were massive
that you're doing.
We were overwhelmed yesterday with the response.
You tested 25 people here yesterday?
You know what?
You said that. You didn't test 25 people.
Okay, you're videotaping people.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I got nobody going in. Are you the CEO of Urgent Care? Wow, you must be upset.
So it seems like people all over the world are sick of lies in the media. So sick of it that they've decided to do something about it. They're on the scene doing the work that the now so-called approved news outlets should be doing. I myself went to go pick up some food at a local restaurant to help those guys afloat during this unprecedented attack on our small businesses. And the CFO of our local hospital happened to be there as well. And she said that the hospitals were not only completely dead, but that they were, quote, burning through cash like mad, end quote. So part of the reason that the hospitals are empty is because they've canceled all the elective surgeries and things like that. They say, of course, to keep the huge influx of virus folks separated from the public. But
something's going on, folks, and it ain't a virus.
As you can see from this footage taken by one of my subscribers, by the way, who's an attorney, all over California and the greater LA area, which is meant to be more hard hit, right? First to be put on the lockdown. There's no long lines of people dealing with virus present. The parking lots are eerily empty. And I'd like to applaud all these folks with the ability to question what we're being told, who have enough desire for truth to get out and verify it for themselves.
And you guys don't know anything about where the testing is being done? I haven't found a single place that'll test anybody. Do you know? Yeah, they have lists, and then when you go there, they say no.
This guy here from Germany had the cojones. He walked through the whole hospital to show the world it is completely empty. And he did comment that the hospital workers were also very dubious about this whole theory as well.
Das ist alles übertrieben und so. Das, was in den Medien berichtet wird, das können Sie nicht nachvollziehen. dass sich das nicht deckt mit dem, was hier tagtäglich passiert.
Oh, and I thought this was really interesting. For those who don't already realize that there is a CORONA, California, and there is a Corona Regional Medical Center within it. And of the over a dozen hospitals this guy ran around diligently checking out, this one too had zero evidence of lines of people getting tested or evidence of chaos. But what it did have were big signs out front surrounded by orange that said, "Hospital Disaster Drill in Progress." Drill, huh? Interesting.
It's a shame that so many people in the world just blindly trust what Fox, CNN, ABC, and all the rest of the media outlets are telling you, instead of trusting in what is really happening, like these videos just showed us. Just goes to show you that we can't trust the media. I have a friend who has been a firefighter for over 20 years in the Los Angeles district. And Los Angeles is supposed to have been hit really hard by this virus, right? Well, 3 weeks ago my friend emailed me and said, "This virus must be a hoax or something because we have not seen any coronavirus patients." And he also talked to many of his other firefighter buddies, and they were all saying the same thing. There are no coronavirus patients. None of this adds up. And check this out. CBS in New York used the same footage that was taken in Italy, but from 3 days earlier.
This is the main hospital in Bergamo, in Lombardy province. It's one of the most advanced hospitals in Europe. But it's the most hard-hit of all the hospitals.
CBS, you have been busted. Huge from CDC website. Hospitals to list COVID-19 as cause of death even if it's assumed to have caused or contributed to death. Dr. Birx says government is classifying all deaths of patients with coronavirus as COVID-19 deaths, regardless of the cause. U.S. hospitals getting paid more to label cause of death as coronavirus. Right now, Medicare is determining that if you have a COVID-19 admission to the hospital, you get $13,000. If that COVID-19 patient goes on a ventilator, you get $39,000, 3 times as much. Nobody can tell me after 35 years in the world of medicine that sometimes those kind of things impact on what we do. So why would the media be inflating the death numbers of this COVID-19 and hospitals being paid extra to label deaths as COVID-19? So they can continue the elite's agenda to rule this world and to continue Bill Gates' agenda to get us all vaccinated in the future. But to do that, they have to keep us all in fear with these inflated death rates. This next clip I'm going to show you is from Fox News, which I do not support. I am really surprised that this even made it onto Fox News because this is really good evidence that these COVID-19 numbers are a fraud. This is Dr. Scott Jensen speaking some truth.
My next guest is a doctor and state senator in Minnesota who is deeply troubled by the CDC's latest guidance for counting COVID deaths. Dr. Scott Jensen joins me now. Doctor, I want to read for our viewers what the CDC says in part about how to count COVID deaths relating to that last issue we just raised. In cases where a definite diagnosis of COVID cannot be made, but is suspected or likely, like the circumstances are compelling with a reasonable degree of certainty, it is acceptable to report COVID-19 on a death certificate as probable or presumed. So, doctor, what's the problem with that?
Well, in short, it's ridiculous. I spent some time earlier today just going through the CDC's manual on how to complete death certificates and the parts that were specifically written for physicians. And in that manual, it talks of precision and specificity, and that's what we were trained with. The determination of the cause of death is a big deal. It has impact on estate planning. It has impact on future generations. And the idea that we're going to allow people to massage and sort of game the numbers is a real issue, because we're going to undermine the trust. And right now, as we see politicians doing things that aren't necessarily motivated on fact and science, the public's their trust in politicians is already wearing thin.
And Doctor, in that same CDC guidance sheet on COVID-19, it references the fact that basically this is a judgment call for doctors on how to fit. I read it, what goes on line 1, and then what goes on line 2, and what goes on the final line as far as contributing factors and ultimate cause of death. But they concede that it is a judgment call. Again, why is that not correct?
Well, let's just take influenza. If I have a patient died a month ago, had fever, cough, and died after 3 days, and maybe had been an elderly, fragile individual, and there happened to be an influenza epidemic around our community, I wouldn't put influenza on the death certificate, and I've never been encouraged to do so. I would put probably respiratory arrest would be the top line, and the underlying cause of disease would be pneumonia, and in the contributing factors, I might well put emphysema or congestive heart failure. But I would never put influenza down as the underlying cause of death, and yet that's what we're being asked to do here.
Dr. Fauci was asked about the COVID death count today. Here's what he said in part.
What do you say to those folks who are making the claim without really any evidence that these deaths are being padded, that the number of COVID-19 deaths are being padded?
You will always have conspiracy theories when you have very challenging public health crises. They are nothing but distractions.
Conspiracy theories, Doctor? So you're engaging in conspiracy theories. What do you say to Dr. Fauci tonight?
Well, I would remind him that anytime healthcare intersects with dollars, it gets awkward. Right now, Medicare has determined that if you have a COVID-19 admission to the hospital, you'll get paid $13,000. If that COVID-19 patient goes on a ventilator, you get $39,000, 3 times as much. Nobody can tell me after 35 years in the world of medicine that sometimes those kinds of things impact on what we do. Some physicians really have a bent towards public health, and they will put down influenza or whatever because that's their preference. I try to stay very specific, very precise. If I know I've got pneumonia, that's what's going on the death certificate. I'm not going to add stuff just because it's convenient. I think that it's not a conspiracy theory at all.
Yeah. So you reject what he said?
Absolutely.
Well, it's interesting that in Italy, where it's socialized medicine, I guess they don't have an interest in the money, if that's what it is here, and they just went back and they started reclassifying deaths according to their top scientific advisor. So they admitted that they were being liberal or generous in how they coded some of these deaths, and they're just going back and reclassifying them. Does that surprise you?
It really does. I mean, let's just take someone getting hit by a bus and they collapse a lung and they go into the emergency room and they're there for 15, 20 minutes. Blood work comes back, COVID test comes back positive, and they die 20 minutes later because of their collapsed lung. We're going to put that down as COVID-19? That doesn't make any sense.
Dr. Jensen, really important conversation. We really, really appreciate your data-driven perspective. Thank you so much.
So when we see in the news that 160,000 people have died from COVID-19 so far, how can we trust that? Maybe only like 10 or 20,000 people have died from COVID-19. Or maybe nobody has died from COVID-19. And check out this clip, where they are preparing for the president to speak and an open mic accidentally catches them admitting that COVID-19 is a giant hoax.
What do you got, baby? You can take out the mask, Doug. The case fatality rate's like 0.1 to 0.3 according to USC. Is it really? That's reassuring. USC. Everybody here's been vaccinated anyway. USC and LA County Public Health came out with a study. They found that there are 7,000 cases in California, but they really believe that there are anywhere from 221,000 to 442,000 people who were infected. Really? Yeah.
So that makes it 0.1 to 0.3? Yeah. Does a study to give out with?
Yeah, just give it to that. So it suggests the case fatality rate is 10. It seems to be. Wow. Which puts you right in line with the flu.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what it is.
So it's a hoax.
let's take a look at some strange things that don't make sense and just goes to show you that the world has gone crazy. In 1981, Dean Koontz wrote a book called The Eyes of Darkness. In this book, he wrote something that is very eerie. To understand that, Dombey said, you have to go back 20 months. It was around then that a Chinese scientist named Li Chen defected to the United States carrying a diskette record of China's most important and dangerous new biological weapon in a decade. They call the stuff Wuhan 400 because it was developed out of their rDNA labs outside of the city of Wuhan, and it was the 400th visible strain of man-made microorganisms created at the research center. Wuhan is a perfect weapon. With the hundreds of thousands of cities in the world, Dean just got lucky and picked the exact city that this Wuhan virus started in? Something strange is going on. And then we have Sylvia Browne. She wrote a book in 2009 called End of Days. In it, she wrote, in around 2020, a severe pneumonia-like illness will spread throughout the globe, attacking the lungs and the bronchial tubes and resisting all known treatments. Did these two authors make some of the luckiest coincidences ever, just like Bill Gates in his Event 201 and his Netflix documentary? Or maybe they knew this was going to happen ahead of time. It sure looks like this was a pre-planned event. Did you know that the coronavirus has a patent on it? And if it has a patent on it, that means it's man-made. Coronavirus. Patent number US 101-307-01B2. Current assignee, PureBright Institute. Application filed by PureBright Institute in 2015. Application granted, 2018. The coronavirus is man-made and patented. So who is this PureBright Institute? PureBright supports UK's effort to ramp up diagnostic testing for COVID-19. In doing a little more research on this company, who do you think showed up? Bill Gates of all people. Here's a pic directly from the company's website. Here's a pic directly from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation website, showing that they have given grant money to this company. November 2013, including vaccines. Here's another, June 2016, to test a novel universal influenza vaccine. In fact, if we do a search on Bill's website, we will see that Bill has funded PureBright 11 times over the years dating back to 2013. Bill and Melinda are donating money to this company that holds the patent for the coronavirus. Is this just another very lucky coincidence? Here's something else that is very strange. The Georgia Guidestones. Have you ever heard of them? The Georgia Guidestones, erected anonymously in March of 1980. Inscribed in 12 different languages. On them are inscribed 10 guides for New Age of Reason. It appears that it is trying to replace the 10 Commandments of the Bible. And the first one is very disturbing. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. I said earlier that the world's population is around 7.8 billion people. So that means that whoever erected this structure wants 7.3 billion dead and off this earth. Keep in mind that whoever paid for this structure to be put up is anonymous. I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Gates was involved somehow. Are you ready for another strange thing that is going on? The media and the people that believe the media are in panic mode because they believe that this coronavirus is one of the most dangerous things ever. But did you know that the coronavirus is labeled as just the common cold? And did you also know that the coronavirus has been on the back of cleaning products for years and years before this outbreak we are in now? And here's one more thing I find strange. On April 18th, some popular singers offered free online concerts while people were stuck at home. Can you guess what they called it? One World Together at Home. I guess we are a lot closer to a one world order and a one world government than I thought. I'm not going to say much about this topic, but let me just say this. If this COVID-19 was a planned event like it appears to be, then they just wiped out all the poor. This event that is going on is hurting the poor more than anybody else. Also, the media in the United States will never talk about third world countries. Think about all the places where the people rely on tourism to make money and survive. Think about all the little markets where the poor people sell their goods to survive. Tourism has stopped because of the quarantines and shutdowns, so these people will be out of business. If there are no tourists, then there are very few people to buy their products. These people were already poor and on the brink of starvation, and now, forget about it. They're going to starve to death. So a virus that has a patent on it and was most likely pre-planned will kill a vast amount of people in third world countries. What a great way for these elite families to lower the population, all under the guise of a virus. The elite families that run this world have an agenda, and that is to keep people in constant fear. They have to keep this COVID-19 on the news constantly. They have to do lockdowns and keep people at home. They have to shut down businesses that will ruin the economy. They have to force people to wear masks in some parts of the country. They have to talk about testing. They have to talk about a future vaccine cure. And why do they have to do all these things? To keep people so afraid of this virus that people will eventually do whatever they are told to do. That is the agenda. To turn you into a sheep so when their ultimate plan is ready, you will willingly sign up for it. I don't think it's a coincidence that in every major election, there is a new virus to keep us in fear. And their plan of keeping us in fear is definitely working. Let me give you an example. I try to go for a walk every day. I have a nice path right by where I live, and I have been walking it for quite a while. But since this COVID-19 situation, everything has changed. You can see the fear in people's faces. Now when I walk, people veer way to the side to try to avoid me. People don't say hi anymore. People are wearing masks, and some are even running with face masks on. Come on, people. Fresh air is good for you. But now, people don't even want fresh air. They want to wear masks out in nature. The fear has gotten to them. That brings me to my point. Fear versus love and joy. What has this COVID-19 done? It's created social distancing. No more hugging, no more shaking hands, everyone staying away from each other. The love is fading. Naturally, we are social beings. We are social creatures. Almost all of us desire the company of others on a regular basis. This is slowly being taken away from us. Let's watch this heartbreaking video of a little kid not being able to hug his dad, who is a nurse, when he gets home from work.
A heartbreaking video shows a nurse in Saudi Arabia breaking down in tears as he is forced to refuse a hug from his young son because of virus. The nurse, Nazar Ali Al-Sharani, who is working in a hospital in Riyadh, had just got home when the video was filmed. It shows the little boy, named Mohammed, running at his father with his arms spread wide before the nurse, who is standing at the front door, makes him stop.
So sad. A dad can't even hug his little kid anymore when he wants to. Now, I understand that this man is just being cautious, but it just goes to show you that the media has made us terrified of a common cold virus. What this all comes down to is fear versus love and joy. Just a few days ago, my friend sent me this picture. This goes way back to 2002, a year after 9/11. It says, "Endgame of the Illuminati. Our choice, fear or love." This happened almost 20 years ago, and the elites that run this world are still using the same tactics today. They love the fact that we are in fear. So what we need to do right now is reject fear. Did you know that fear and joy cannot exist at the exact same time? Let me give you an example. Let's say a family is sitting around watching a good comedy movie. Everybody is laughing and having a good time. At that very moment, fear cannot be present. That's what we need to accept right now. Laughter, joy, and love. This really all comes down to Jesus versus Satan. Jesus is love and Satan is fear. Which one are you going to pick? We are in a spiritual battle, and it is time to put on the whole armor of God. This might be the most important part of this video: vaccinations. Specifically, flu vaccinations. It really looks like they want to get everyone in the world vaccinated. Who needs a flu vaccine and when? Everyone 6 months of age and older should get a flu vaccine every season. Flu symptoms may overlap with COVID-19 symptoms. Get your flu vaccine, says doctor. So let's talk about flu vaccinations for a few minutes. Did you know that the seasonal flu shot is not very effective? Dr. Brownstein, the flu vaccine is terribly ineffective, causes more problems than it helps. Ineffective flu vaccine added to 50,000 extra deaths last winter. Why flu vaccines so often fail? The flu shot, unsafe, ineffective, and not necessary. According to the CDC, the best way to prevent seasonal flu is to get vaccinated annually. So why do they consider the flu shot to be working well when it fails more than 50% of the time and has not surpassed a 60% efficiency rate over the past 14 years? Worse yet, with every passing year, the CDC uses more fear-based marketing to promote universal flu vaccination, unjustifiably claiming the vaccine prevents millions of illnesses and doctor visits. Governmental pressure to vaccinate typically begins in late summer and early fall. Look at this chart that comes directly from the CDC. Seasonal flu vaccine effectiveness. Wow, 2004 and 2005 sucked. Only 10% effective rate? 2014, 2015, only a 19% effective rate? If you take the flu vaccine every year, then I guess you must love gambling, because you only have about a 50% effective rate of it working. And do you know why the main reason these flu vaccinations are so ineffective? It is because of how they are made. The flu vaccine is made by private manufacturers and takes about 6 months to produce. The availability of the flu vaccine depends on when production is completed, but generally, shipments begin sometime in August. Doctors and nurses are encouraged to begin vaccinating people as soon as the flu vaccine is available in their areas. So think about this. When these drug companies are making the flu vaccine 6 months before the flu season starts, they have no idea what virus is going to hit that winter. These drug companies are only guessing on what viruses to protect from. So when you go in for a flu shot, you are getting something that was made 6 to 9 months earlier that is, most likely, not even the correct vaccine. And what's in the vaccine? Influenza vaccines are sold by multiple drug companies and contain varying amounts of different ingredients, including adjuvants and preservatives that may cause adverse reactions. Depending on the manufacturer, the vaccines may include flu viruses, chicken egg proteins, genetically engineered dog kidney cells, GE caterpillar cells, antibiotics, formaldehyde, whatever that is, bromide, polysorbate 80, gelatin, squalene oil, and thimerosal, a mercury-containing preservative. If you have never heard of Dr. Joseph Mercola, I highly suggest that you go to his website or look him up on YouTube. I have been following this guy for over 15 years. He's probably one of the best natural doctors in the world. And what about the side effects? Common influenza vaccine reactions include fever, sore throat, cough, nasal congestion, nausea, fatigue, joint and muscle pain, headache, soreness, and redness or swelling at the injection site. So getting the vaccination gives you almost the exact same symptoms of the flu? No thanks, I think I will pass. Have you ever asked yourself why are the flu shots given away free every year? Drug companies that make the flu shot are in business to make money, not to give things away for free. So maybe there is a hidden agenda behind these free flu shots that we don't know about. Hospitals charge as much as $25 for a single aspirin, yet flu shots are free? Something's not right here. So last week, I was talking to my friend about this entire situation that the country is in, and what we came up with might have cracked the code on what is going on. I have not heard anybody else talk about this, and I think you will find this very interesting. So, I was telling my friend that I think in the future that we will all have to get a certificate of vaccination and how it will be like our driver's license, and we will have to show it to be able to do various activities. My friend said, "Hold on, stop. Did you hear what you just said?" I said, "No, what are you talking about?" He said, "Do you know what the acronym is for certificate of vaccination?" It took me a few seconds, and then I thought, oh my. Have you guys figured it out? The code might have just been cracked. Here it is. Certificate of Vaccination Identification 2019. COVID-19 is the acronym of what might be happening in the future. Can you believe it? So then we talked some more about this, and we started saying things like, hey, did you get your COVID 2020 yet? Did you get your COVID 2021 yet? And so on and so on. I really think that the elite that runs this world want to make us all get a certificate of vaccination each and every year. This might be a laminated card like your driver's license to prove that you have received your yearly vaccination. Now the big question is, would this be a forced vaccination? From a Christian perspective, I don't think it will be, and here is why. I think Satan has to follow a code, and that code cannot take away our free will. Let's call it the God code. And forcing us to take the vaccination would be against our free will. But this is how I think they will implement it. They will be very cunning about this. Let me give you an example. We don't have to drive a car. It is only a luxury and is not forced on us. But the majority of us pay our car registration and our car insurance every year so that we have the privilege to drive, right? So how could this certificate of vaccination be implemented on us yearly? Here are a few ideas on how they might not force us, but make you voluntarily get your yearly vaccination card. Let's say you want to take a trip and fly across the country. Well, at the airports, you're going to not only have to show your driver's license, but now you're going to have to show your COVID 2020 card as well. Let's say you want to drive your car into Canada from the United States. Well, now you're going to have to show your COVID 2020 card along with your passport. And here is the big one. This could be really bad for lots and lots of people. Let's say when they finally lift this ban and we get back to work. To get back into your office or wherever you work, you will first have to show your COVID 2020 card. No certificate of vaccination equals no job. And again, this isn't forced vaccinations. You don't have to work, but if you want to pay your rent and feed your family, then you will be forced to get the vaccination and the card, right? Do you see how this evil plan could play out? It's not forced, but really, unless you are retired or have plenty of money in the bank, it is forced because you have to have a job to make your money and to pay your bills. Whatever happens in the future, I think we're all going to have to face a huge decision to either take the vaccination or to not take it. Sorry to say it, but it looks like we will be the frog in the pot scenario, where all the people will be slowly boiled until we either jump out and give in to their demands, or stay in the pot and go against their demands and be put in jail, a FEMA camp, or die, or whatever is going to happen. Now, let me break it down for you into different stages of what I think the elite have planned for us in the future. This is only my opinion, and I could be way off. Stage 1. Stage 1 has already happened. It was the last 10 years with the news and the media preparing us for a virus and a soon coming pandemic. It was to start the fear process. Stage 2. We are currently in stage 2. Fear, job loss, economy going down the drain, forced masks, social distancing, and people going stir crazy. Their plan is working. Before this, we didn't think too much about viruses and vaccines, but now it's almost all we think about. They might end this lockdown at the end of May or even at the end of June, but the damage has been done. Psychological warfare has been implemented. The elite have accomplished what they wanted to. This leads to stage 3. So it's the middle of the summer and people are back at work and things seem like they are getting back to normal. But the whole time, the news and the media keep reminding us that it's not over. A second wave of coronavirus is coming, and it's probably going to be worse than the last one. In fact, they are already brainwashing us now with this type of news. And not just the CDC, but I found this article a few days ago. Novak opposes mandatory coronavirus vaccination. Top-ranked tennis player Novak said he's opposed to vaccination and doesn't like the idea of being required to get a coronavirus vaccine in order to return to playing. Personally, I am opposed to vaccination and I wouldn't want to be forced by someone to take a vaccine in order to be able to travel. The main message is that this guy is not going to take the vaccination. That's great. But did you catch the subtle message? The subtle message is that mandatory vaccines are coming. If you want to play sports or travel, you're going to have to get vaccinated. This is brilliant predictive programming while most people have no idea. So we continue on with our lives with this fear in the back of our minds that a second wave is most likely coming. Then there is breaking news that a vaccine has been found. Most likely it will be Bill Gates saying, "We have found the vaccine a year ahead of schedule. It's a miracle." This might occur in, let's say maybe around October, conveniently right before the flu season hits here in the United States. Then there will be another huge announcement, most likely from the CDC, that says, to keep the public safe, if you want to continue to be employed, you have to go get your COVID 2020 card. They will give everyone like 2 weeks to go get their free vaccination so they can get the COVID 2020 card or they will lose their job. I guarantee that most people will do this willingly because of the fear they are causing right now in stage 2 of their plan. Stage 4. So over the next few years, they will get everyone settled down and everyone used to getting their yearly COVID card. Nobody will question it. Everyone will just line up like sheep to get the vaccination. Stage 5. Even though over the last few years most people willingly took the vaccination and received their COVID cards, there are still a small group of people that will not take it no matter what. These people will be labeled as rebels, and the average person will report them if they have the chance to. We will be living in a tattletale country, where everyone will be reporting the non-vaccinated people, all in the name of safety. And the final measure is, just to round up these last rebels, the elite will put out the most dangerous virus that we have ever seen. At least that's what the media will tell us. At this point, it might be so bad that I think they will have SWAT teams or men in black going door to door with doctors to give forced vaccinations. So there's my opinion on stages 1 through 5 coming to you through our TVs and media outlets over the next several years. Will you trust the news and just willingly do what they say? So what can we do right now to protect ourselves from viruses if you are against vaccinations? Let me make this disclosure first. I am not a doctor, and this is only my opinion. Please seek professional advice if you are in need. There is a lot we can do, but most people don't know because they sit around watching the news all the time, and the news doesn't talk about this. In fact, many times there are negative articles about vitamins to persuade people to not take them. An example are these two from WebMD. And this article shows you where the FDA stands on this issue. It's obvious why they would put out articles like this, because they promote doctors and doctors prescribe drugs, not vitamins. With that said, let's quickly look at some natural foods and supplements that do an amazing job at fighting colds, flus, and viruses. Vitamin C. This is the #1 cold and flu fighter. It's great for the immune system, and it can help with the prevention of getting a cold or virus. It also is a major antioxidant. Zinc. This essential mineral is huge for boosting the immune system. It does an amazing job on not just preventing colds and flu, but it also speeds up your recovery time when you're in the middle of dealing with a cold or flu. Vitamin D. Now make sure you take vitamin D3, not vitamin D2. A natural immune booster, vitamin D helps fight acute respiratory infections, and research suggests that taking a weekly or daily supplement can decrease your risk of contracting the flu. Echinacea. Echinacea is my favorite herb for dealing with cold and flus and upper respiratory issues. Golden seal. This compound is often described as nature's antibiotic. Golden seal and echinacea in combination are very effective for treating the cold and flu. Oregano oil. This essential oil has many versatile qualities, which include antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, antioxidant, and many more healing properties. And probably one of the strongest antivirals is garlic. Try to eat it raw if you can. Fight viruses and bacteria with garlic. Garlic has a tremendous effect as an antiviral and antimicrobial agent. This powerful herb also has antifungal, antiparasitic, lipid-lowering, and anti-clotting properties. In addition, it helps lower blood pressure, has anti-cancer properties, and is also an antioxidant. This is just a small list. Do your body a favor and take a few hours and research topics like top supplements to fight viruses, or best herbs to fight viruses, or top 10 foods to naturally fight viruses. So while the news keeps talking about a vaccine cure, why don't you start taking control of your own health by taking these natural virus-killing supplements and foods instead? Recently, I have heard many people say that we're in the end times and the mark of the beast is here, and that they are afraid of what's coming next. First off, there is nothing to fear. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. I will help thee. I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. Second, God has known about this from the very beginning. God knew that this virus situation would happen, and God is in complete control. Great is our Lord, and of great power, his understanding is infinite. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good. Let's put things in biblical perspective. What does the Bible say about the mark of the beast, and when might it occur? There are many Christians that are overlooking the fact that certain events still need to take place before the mark of the beast arrives. Revelation 13 gives us a strong indication about when the mark of the beast will begin and be forced on the people. Revelation chapter 13 verses 4 through 7 indicates that the Antichrist will reign for 42 months or 3.5 years at that time. This one detail alone shows us that, first, an Antichrist has to come onto the scene to rule for 3.5 years. This has not happened yet. In my opinion, I think we should keep our eyes on the United Nations. I think this is where the Antichrist will emerge from. They will have some big announcement that a new leader has some amazing ideas on how to end all the wars, end all the hunger, and most importantly, end all the viruses. So until this Antichrist emerges, there is no reason to fear the mark of the beast. And once this Antichrist does emerge, then we know that the Bible time clock has started. We know that we have 3.5 years, and then this Antichrist will set up an abomination of desolation and demand the world to worship him. And at the time of this abomination of desolation, that is when this Antichrist will release the mark of the beast and demand the people to take it or die. So rest assured, the mark of the beast is not here yet. We still have to wait for this Antichrist to emerge, and then we know we still have 3.5 years before it will be forced on us. So let me conclude this video by saying this. I know I have given you a lot of information to process. It may be overwhelming to some of you. But what we need to do right now is use our critical thinking and our discernment to try to figure out what is really going on. We can't just blindly follow what the news tells us. We need to think beyond the news. Remember this, if the news and the media are pushing a certain narrative, then that's exactly what they want you to think and do. Nothing is by accident. What we need to do is to seek out the truth. And as John 8:32 tells us, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. I feel that this information is very important. Please help me spread this information by sharing this video with as many people as you can. Also, I would love to hear your thoughts on this virus situation we are in, so please leave your comments down below. Thank you for watching, and stay strong in Jesus Christ every day. God bless.